Hello lovely people, I'm Catherine and welcome to this week's Journaling for All Seasons. I've finished with the moon stitching. Sorry, my little key, it fell off last week and I put it back on, but the clips come undone again. I think I might need to get another one or bend it somehow. Sorry about that. Is that it? Have I done it? I think so. Okay. Sorry, welcome to this week's Journal for All Seasons. So over the last few weeks I've been working on the moon stitching, the pieces left from the moon stitching. If you're new here, I'll just give you a quick flip. So I did a moon stitching project over 28 days and I decided to choose 3 words a day to go along with it, and that proved really problematic. So I finished the stitching, and those moons will reappear, the stitch moons, at some future point in another project. But then I used all the bits and bobs from that project, the tea bags that I dyed the cloth with, the templates for stitching the phases of the moon, and so forth, und so weiter, in these 4 pages of my journal. There I did some paper weaving. I stuck a bit of washi tape down those 2 sides if you were here a couple of weeks ago when I did the weaving, and I cut the edges of the square where I shouldn't have done. So I had this grey washi tape, so I stuck that there. So that was my last, my stitched tea bags. Someone, was it you Sarah, I'm not entirely sure, suggested that if you had round tea bags you could make the folded hexagons that I made with you in July's coverlet of comfort, and also last year in a Wonky Wednesday, I think. And yeah, so now I want to get some round tea bags and try that. But yeah, I had the square one, so I did that. So this was my next page, again with the black paper. It had some masking tape down the seam because there were 2 A4 sheets, and so I painted that with black gesso, and I have written a poem. I went to find a bit of paper to write a to-do list because I felt, you know, kind of a bit, not overwhelmed, but like there was a lot of admin-y stuff that I needed to be doing. So I'm just checking that I haven't moved it out of shot. And yeah, you know how when you keep thinking, oh, I must do that, I must do that. Well, then what I then do is go and write a list. Sensible thing to do, isn't it? So I was looking for a piece of paper to write a list on, and I found a poem that I started, and I think I talked about it with you, about saluting magpies, which is just a little quirk of mine. It's a British thing. I don't remember if anybody said it was common in other countries, but it's kind of supposed to be bad luck to see a solitary magpie. So to break the bad luck, you salute them and you say, "Good morning, Mr. Magpie, and how are your wife and children?" And I talked about having been mocked for that in the past, and that I think I did tell you that I was writing a poem around that. So I found those scribblings in this little notebook that I was going to get to write my to-do list. Sorry, this is a long-witter. Explaining my rather erratic thought processes, and I thought, oh, there's that poem, and I picked it up and I just sort of finished it just like that, and that kind of, yeah, I was quite pleased with myself having gone through all this words angst. So I thought it would be appropriate to include that in this week's spread, because it was literally just a few random lines that I'd scribbled, and so I've written it here. I'll just explain to you how I did that. I didn't do that with you, because if I had, all you would see is this, and my head is very fluffy at the moment. I do need to go and see Martha and have some bit of work done, you know, on my dreads, because they're getting super fluffy. So what I did was I actually counted the letters, because I wanted to have 3 lines. It's a bit persnickety of me. I counted the letters in the words and subdivided that into 3 lines, so that, and then I practiced on this bit of scrap paper that I stuck together with masking tape, because I wanted them to fill the 3 lines completely. So yeah, so there's some planning involved with that. And then when I was happy with it on the scrap paper, I stuck this little strip of paper on there, onto my book, and then wrote it underneath in gold pen. and then I kind of used that line as a guideline to keep it in a straight line. But obviously you do you don't have to spend whatever it was an hour faffing about like that if you want to, if you don't want to. But as always, I'll read the poem at the end and I will put it in the description box below, and I will also put it as a pinned comment, because I know many of you can see a pinned comment more easily, especially if you're watching on a television screen. And I'm more than happy for you to use that in your own, in your own journaling or whatever, if you would like to. So I did that, and I thought, well, what am I going to put here and here? And I sort of put it a third of the way down, because that rule of thirds thing. And then last week or so ago, I just put this to one side for a minute. I went over to my friend Chrissy, who I've talked about before, who's got a lovely big studio with lots of toys. And we had to do some admin stuff for our textile group, and then she had to do some other stuff on the computer. And so while she was doing that, I had a play. And she's got jelly plates. Now that's not my area of expertise by a long stretch. I was very much playing. If you don't know what a jelly plate is, it's a piece of stuff made of gelatin, and you put paint on it, and then you can make grooves in the paint, or print or stencil, or you can manipulate the paint in some way, and then you pull off what you've created with pieces of paper. That is simple. It's gelli, G-E-L-L-I, if you want to look it up if you don't know about it. And I didn't really, here I did some stamping with a bit of that non-slip stuff, I think, that you put under rugs. But mostly I was just playing with the brayer. A brayer is that roller thing that you use in, mixed media printing as well. So mostly I was just playing with the brayer, and I chose some, these are her acrylic paints. There was a pewter, a burnt sienna and a raw sienna, I think, and a black. I think those were the colours that I used. And I basically just played, and I kind of put stuff on and put the paper on, pulled the print off. If I didn't like it, I did it again. And so I got this whole little stack. I'll just flip you through them quickly. Most of them are collage, but when I get to the bottom, there were some that I was really pleased with. So I thought I'd use these. There I did a circle stencil. I thought I'd use these in this week's spread. So I'll just show you them quickly. This is just cheap sketchbook paper. Oh, little fly came. And there was a stencil with some shapes, so I did that. But I quite like the colours, quite liked the look of the colours together. And there you see I've gone with the brayer. I'd put blobs of paint like that and then rolled it with the brayer that way and then that way. It's just the best fun, jelly printing, if you have never had a go. These are now getting a bit more. In the beginning, because I do it so rarely, I'm just slapping paint on and rolling and pulling off and seeing what happens. But as you gradually learn what's happening, you kind of start doing things with a bit more deliberateness. Deliberateness, is that a word? And then some of them I've pulled several times, so they're really multi-layered, which is also fun. That I liked as well. There's a lot of white in it, but I still liked it. Actually, I might keep that one. This pewter was lovely. It had a shine to it. And that one I quite like as well. I might keep that one. You see, they I don't know. They just seem more composed. They've got more composition to them. I think I might keep those rather than tear them up. That. And then these were the ones I had decided to keep, but I've got 2 more to add. I really love these, just really love them. I don't know what I'll do with them, maybe I'll make a book or something. So I'll just show you those. Here I can see trees and a landscape, you start seeing patterns and shapes in them. And these, the colours especially, I liked these sort of earthy colours with the oranges, and again I sort of started seeing a landscape. So I might work into them a bit more at one point. There you can see I can see a sunset and trees, and then the foreground. You can imagine working over that in a pen or coloured pencils or whatever, and bringing that out more. and these two together, I just love the colours because they're real earth colours. And this one's got these lines this way that the brayer's made, so that could again be landscapes. And this one's got a line here, like a perspective line. I could imagine there you might draw a fence and a road, and you know, and then maybe put some trees here. So I'm looking forward to having a play with those at one point. Not today. And this was my favourite one of all. This sort of felt to me a bit Clarice Cliff-esque. You know Clarice Cliff, the 30s China designer. I think it was mostly these trees with these dark, they're not trees, they were just marks, but you know, with the dark trunks. And then this in this pewter here could be water with a shine on it and land in the foreground. So those were my jelly prints. Those were the ones that I'm going to keep for something. The rest can be torn up with abandon. So I keep this bit of newsprint that Kofi gave me to bring them home and down, I think, to protect my desk. Get my journal back in. So I'm just going to tear and stick, and I think I'm going to, inspired by these turning into landscapes, I think I'm going to kind of create a very abstract landscape, in that I'm going to put earth tones down here at the bottom, and the kind of oranges and paler colours, and maybe some of the pewter at the top. And I'm sort of thinking about sunrise or sunset, either of those two. And I have a word to stick on later, and I don't think it really matters if it appears as a sunrise or a sunset. I'll maybe talk more about it as I go along. So I've got my bits of paper to tear up. I've got my word for later, which is freedom. I'm going to stick that on later. And I got my poem, and I'm going to use my medium which was very heavy gel matte medium, and I keep mixing a bit more of the runny stuff in, but obviously glue stick or whatever will probably also work. I'm happier with a wet glue and a brush than glue stick. I seem to make less mess, bizarrely. So there will be tearing. Maybe I just need to get my ruler as well. So I won't do the whole collage with you here, because that does take me quite a long time, and I think it can get quite boring to watch. But I'll make a start. So I've just torn that bottom edge. I keep all these bits of scrap paper because just for writing notes on or whatever. I think what I'm going to do, actually, I'll pause the camera, because most of them are just a square in the middle of the page, because I just used her small square jelly plate. I think I'm just going to tear all the white margins off, and then I'll be back when I've done that. I think that'll be handiest. Okay, so I won't. Okay, so I've torn all the white bits off. So I'm just going to start with a dark bit of something. I'll just put them over there out of shot because I haven't got room for all of them. I think I'm just going to tear out. I'm going to start down at the bottom with the dark. If you tear away from the edge you want, then your white paper doesn't show. That makes sense. Although then it's going to show when I come to use this, but you know, you can't have it both ways, as they say. Let's just tear that dark piece out. I think I'm going to keep the pieces quite big because they're already quite varied because of the painting that I did. I might just not have them quite so rectangular. All the bits that I tear off will of course go in my scraps. And if you do have white edges showing afterwards, you can always go back in with some paint or colouring pencils or whatever. I'm now probably out of shot again, I'm just putting some glue on it. Yeah, so I just felt that, you know, I hadn't been doing the mixed media for a month pretty much. The go-to always when I'm a bit stuck or out of practice is collage. Just go back to collage. It's pretty simple, pretty rewarding to do. I find it quite therapeutic. My idea was kind of that line of gold writing acted like a horizon line. That was a little bit my thinking. I could just use this other bit over here now since I've got it torn already. Yeah, and I always try to work quickly and intuitively with collage rather than overthinking. Doesn't always work. I can be guilty of overthinking, if guilty is the right word to use. But it loosens you up. It's a good warm-up exercise. And if you really feel that you're stuck and you just want something to get you going, then just go and get go in your recycling bin or whatever, or in your scraps if you already have such a thing, and find some bits of, the stuff they put through your door or magazines or whatever, and find a substrate, a bit of cardboard or something, and a pot of glue, and just collage, and just say to yourself, when I'm done, you have to be careful. Some recycling plants won't take recycling if it's got glue because it's plastic, but I would think with a glue stick you're probably okay. Just with the idea that you're going to throw it away afterwards. That kind of spirit of mandala, where you make something and it's just about the process of the making and not about... I am now, having talked about overthinking, going to make the bottom of that straight because it's against the edge of my book, my journal. Yeah, the spirit of mandala, so you're not focusing on the end result, you're focusing on the process. Yeah, I said something about that last time, and someone quite rightly pointed out that some recycling schemes don't like you to put glue in the, sorry, I keep moving it, in the recycling, so just be aware of that. Bit of glue on that bit. And there's no right or wrong really, because you can just keep sticking things over the top until you're happy. If you don't like the look of something, you don't have to undo anything at any point. You can just tear it off. You can just stick something else over it. You don't have to tear it off. So I'm just literally choosing the dark bits out of my jelly papers. That one there's got white on, but I think I am going to go back in with something afterwards. I might offer it up and say to myself, right, well, I can see that one's coming up there like that, so I'm going to tear that one so it overlaps it just by a bit. So you can do a bit of planning in that sense. I might not worry here because I'll just stick something else over that. You don't have to, I generally do cover the whole background, but you don't have to do that either, especially here where I've got the dark paper. But we'll see where we get to. Oops. I'm just leaving a very small edge of the page showing, and I'm making sure that's the one thing as well, if you're working across a gutter, really make sure you push it down into the gutter, otherwise you can tear it when you open or close your page. I'm using this lovely bone folder that Jane's husband Richard made for me. Actually, it is a poker to turn out corners when I'm doing pouches and things, but it also serves as a bone folder. And I'm always careful to wipe it off when I'm finished using it so that I don't get it all sticky. So I'm just sorry about my arm. There's another dark bit there. And that's got kind of shape to it, so I might just tear around the shape a little bit. Oh, I did also want to talk about Wendy at the Unexpected Gypsy. I know many of you do watch her, but she put out a wonderful video, not weekend just gone, but the weekend before, I think it was. It might have been Monday. Anyway, it was called, I can't remember what it was called. I will link to it. It'll be her last but one when you see this. She puts one a week. And she was talking about, specifically in her case, she used to be a teacher, for many years, and about feeling that she wasn't herself in that role and in that life, like she was living someone else's life. She's just a wonderful, articulate person, And yeah, I just sat there nodding my head and weeping a little bit here and there. Not that I've been a teacher or anything, but much of what she said resonated with me. And so I would encourage you to go and listen to her if you haven't already. And she was talking about creativity and, you know, how expressing yourself without using words. So that obviously resonated enormously with me because of the journey that I went on in the last month with the last couple of months with the moon stitching. Yeah, it just feels good, doesn't it? Well, it does feel good to me when you've got thoughts and stuff going on in your head, and then you hear someone else, especially if it's someone that you like and respect, saying something that resonates with you, and you go, yeah, thank you, Wendy, for articulating that so well. That now makes more sense to me. I'm going to have some of this. I think I want quite a long skinny bit, so I'm going to tear it under a diagonal. And that's how you get the longest possible bit, of course. I'm going to get it roughly the right. Yeah, it's these jelly. When I first started doing this jelly printing, I used to get awfully precious about them. But you see now that I'm just ripping it up without any concern. And I feel the same way about my eco prints. I know when I've posted, when I've shared with you eco prints in the past, many people have said, how can you cut that up? It's kind of the same thing, because it's what it's for to me, you know. And if you are a keen jelly printer, you can't keep every single one intact, you know. You choose your favourites and maybe make them into a book or make them into an art piece, you know, in their own right. Sorry about my arm again. Or you tear them up for collage, because that's what you made them for. And I was making collage fodder, and those ones that I really liked just turned out kind of on their own, you know. They just, and I may look at them again at some future point and think, actually I'm never going to get around to doing anything with them, so they can go in the collage, but for now I'll keep them and do fancy doodling on them. I think I do fancy doodling, so I probably will take my least favourite one. Right, I want something there that's kind of straight-ish to go under my words. I don't think I want it perfectly straight, like torn with a ruler, just torn by eye like that. Like so. Let's get that bit off. And just rough tear that as well. Whoops. So yeah, I would encourage you that if you haven't done collage, A, to have a go, and B, to just work quickly. You kind of challenge your inner child. It's very late, very late. It's 4 o'clock. I'm in that afternoon slump, but I just felt like doing this now, and so I just kind of started, really. Yeah, what was I saying? Channel, that's the word I was after. Your inner child. Just imagine you're at play school or kindergarten, or whatever you want to call it, you know, with a pot of glue and some old magazines. Remember, the Argos catalogue was very popular when I was a child, but I don't know if you have Argos in other countries. It's one of those shops where you go in and there's not much on display. You choose from a catalogue and you go up and fill in your order. Probably do it on a screen these days. And they bring it to you from a warehouse, you know, one of those. So there's quite a very comprehensive catalogue. And if you can get an old Argos catalogue, and they did all kinds of stuff from toys to household stuff. They still do, they still exist. Right. So I've got my straight edge, so now I'm just going to tear around the edge of this. And I think since I'm now reduced to talking about the Argos catalogue, maybe I will just fast forward. Well, not fast forward because you don't like that. Pause, finish my collage, or go on with my collage a bit more, and then I'll come back once I'm a bit further on, okay? Okay, so that's all my collage done, and it's very, very dry because it's now the next day, and I've put rings on because I'm going out in a little bit. But before I do that, I thought I'd just finish this up. I'm very happy with it. It doesn't really look like any kind of sunset you've ever seen. You could, I guess, if you wanted to, go in with more acrylic paint and really make it look sunsetty. Maybe I could have paid more attention to where I put the, group the orange together and then the gold. But anyway, I did that, and whether it's a sunset or not, I'm very happy with the overall look of it. I just love these colours. But I do want to deal with some of these white edges that are showing. So I've got my pencil set out, and I'm basically just going to colour them in. I don't think watercolour works very well over acrylics, not in my experience anyway. I did think about using my gold watercolour paint, but yeah, I'm not sure it'll work. So I'm just going with the pencils. Yeah, my idea about the sunset and sunrise thing and the kind of ambivalence of it, is that the right word? I'll leave that because that's in the print, so that's got a kind of different look to it than the torn edges. Was that it's a cycle in the same way that the moon phase project was a cycle, as a cyclical thing. The sun rises, the sunset. Actually, the sun doesn't move in relation to us, obviously. Being a pedant, we go around it. But the sun appears to rise and set. Something a bit more goldy. Up there. Is that going to be too yellow? Maybe the orange is better. Yeah, so I just thought continuing on with that theme of, this is a bit bright, but I might go over it with the grey afterwards with a bit of graphite. If it looks too bright. Yeah, that theme of the, the cycle of the celestial bodies, shall we call them, the sun and the moon. So yeah, that was my thinking, if there was any thinking at all. I was I mentioned Wendy, the Unexpected Gypsy, earlier. I loved the way that she put into words about how you don't need to use words. In a creative practice you can express yourself in many different ways. And that might be, it doesn't have to be, in stitching or mixed media or drawing or anything. It could be music or creative writing or, well, that is words. It could be in dance, it could be in cooking, in flower arrange, anything that requires creativity. It could be in how you dress your home, it could be any number of things. It's kind of about finding your, it sounds like a cliche, but kind of your true self, your authentic self. I think often we don't really know who that person is, and I certainly haven't known for many, many years who that person is. That person was utterly lost, and now I feel that I don't feel I've changed into something new, although of course I must have in some ways, because I think we all change as time goes on. But I do think that I've changed or found my true self again, if that makes any sense. And that kind of is evident in little, seemingly inconsequential things, but however they're important, especially when you add them all together, and also much bigger things. And I think I would say that, if you possibly can, if you feel the need, I'm just going over the orange just to tone it down a bit here and there. If you feel in any way uncomfortable in your skin. I mean, Wendy said she literally didn't feel like she knew herself. It wasn't her in her. She was a teacher in the mainstream education system, in the school system, and all the pressures that comes with that. I won't tell her story, but just a bit of background. That she was utterly lost, and that's, although my situation was completely different. It was a relationship. Everything she said utterly resonated with me. And I think that is the joy in us sharing our story, the joy that can be found, or that maybe joy's not the right word, but the words again, the value in us sharing our stories, here us YouTubers and you who are not YouTubers but who share your stories in the comments and so on, is that it's a conversation between us all, isn't it? And someone else might read one of your comments and think, oh yeah, that, and they may not reply, there may not be someone who comments even, but they may think, oh yeah, that really makes sense to me, that's putting into words something that I can't or didn't even kind of know I needed to. Anyway, I might put some little flecks of gold. I'm going to colour in some of the white bits where this is just my gold gel pen. I might not colour them in solid like there where it's quite a big area. I might just do that. The clock's going to chime. The clock is chiming. This is just really for the sake of doodling. And I think I am going to get those other ones out. I might do that next time, I'll see, unless something else needs doing. Things kind of rise up in my brain and need doing. Are you like that? And then all the plans that you've made for all the other things you're going to do, you have to just put them to one side because there's some burning desire to do a certain something. I might do some dots there in those little circles, hardly visible but there. And I might just do some jaggedy lines in those spaces. Yeah, so I might get one or more of those little collage pieces out and work into them next time, or I might not. Sorry, I shouted suddenly. I don't know why I shouted. Stop now, Catherine. Can do that forever. You don't have to stop yourself if you've got the time and the inclination. Just keep going. But I'm going to stop there. I'm going to glue on my word, which is from a magazine, and it's just the word freedom, and it's blue against, I thought this kind of tealy turquoisey blue against the orange would stand out nicely, but I don't know where to put it. And now if you're looking up and not doing your crocheting or your knitting or whatever, you're probably all shouting at me, but you're probably all shouting different things, so even if I could hear you I think I'm going to put it down, right down there. I don't know if you can see. Can you see? Yep, you can. I'll just move the pencils because they're shiny. I think I'm just going to put it right down there. There's a glue stick handy here somewhere. Found one. If it doesn't work because of the acrylic, I'll do it with the matte medium. But I'll try with a glue stick for starters, so then I don't have to make a brush dirty and then go and wash it, just for that little thing. There we go, and then, that seems to be sticking, I shall read you my poem. Now it is about my former relationship, which was not a very nice one. I'm just warning you in advance in case you're, sorry, I shouldn't do two things at once when I'm talking to you, in case you're of a sensitive disposition. So here we go. To be alone but not lonely, to be free to salute magpies, to eat lunch at 3 or not at all, to walk through the world unmocked, to trust in the memory of a past conversation lit by the clear golden light of the sun and not by the acid blue-green of a gas flame, to not be the one who is always wrong because the other always has to be right, to walk on solid, uneggshelled ground, to take up space in the world. I'm sorry, I thought I could just read that like that. I got a bit of a break in my voice. Yeah, so there we go. So that is my this week's spread, thinking about the sun rising, the sun setting, the sun rising again, and on and on. On and on it goes, the circle game, Joni Mitchell. And yeah, that very, very important word, freedom. Freedom to do all those things. So thank you so much for watching and sharing in that with me. I hope if you feel like having a go at mixed media, if you've done it before and you're feeling stuck, or if you have never done it, or if you, just fancy doing it anyway, collage is always great fun. And then doodling into it afterwards is also great fun. And thank you so much, as always, for being here and for watching. And I look forward to you joining me next time for more journaling tales. Lots and lots of love. Bye bye.